Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if that journal entry you wrote last night was actually you or if a clever AI wrote it? Well, this fascinating new study explores just that. In today's world, we're using more and more online tools for everything, including understanding our own minds. Think about those journaling apps or online studies where you write about your feelings. It is amazing for gathering tons of information. But what happens when artificial intelligence like ChatGPT gets so good it can write like a human? How do researchers know if the feelings and thoughts they're reading are truly from a person, especially if they're paying people to participate? That is the big question this research team tackled. They wanted to create a way to check if free text data in online psychology studies might be coming from an AI instead of a human. The researchers noticed that in their own online journaling study, some entries looked a bit too perfect or strange, and some participants even admitted to using AI. This got them thinking about how to check for this. They decided to develop a special process, a kind of workflow, using text analysis to spot clues that suggest an AI might have written something. They collected journal entries from over 250 people over 2 weeks. Here is how they did it. They had a bunch of university students read each journal entry and decide if it seemed like a human wrote it, if it looked like AI wrote it, or if it was just junk. They also used the popular AI detection tool, kind of like an automated checker to see what it thought. Then they compared these human and AI detector judgments. The really interesting part was when they looked closely at the actual words and sentences, they pulled out over 100 different features from the text. These features were things like how long the entry was, how logically the sentences flowed together, how consistent the writing style was, how easy it was to read, and even what kinds of words were used, like words about feelings, thinking, or social interactions. They weren't just looking for one single clue. Instead, they built smart computer models to see if a combination of these language clues could tell the difference between what humans thought was AI written and what they thought was human. They focused on making this process really clear and understandable, so other researchers could use it. So, what did they find? It turns out AI-written entries tended to be different in a few key ways. Think about it this way. Entries that seemed like they were written by AI were often longer, made more sense from sentence to sentence, and kept a very consistent style. It was like they were polished and very well put together. On the other hand, entries that humans thought were written by humans were a bit more all over the place in style, focused more on the now and used I and me a lot more. They felt more like real. Immediate thoughts. One of the most striking findings was about how the sentences connected AI. Written entries were super coherent, meaning sentences flowed logically from one to the next with very few neutral or unrelated thoughts. This might sound good, but in spontaneous journaling, where thoughts often jump around, this high level of perfect connection can actually be a sign that an AI wrote it. Not a human, just pouring out their thoughts. The researchers found that a simple decision tree model, which is like a flowchart of if this, then that rules could be surprisingly accurate. This tree used a few key clues like how often verbs were used, the number of syllables in words, how often articles like a or the appeared, and the total number of sentences. It was really good at telling the difference, hitting over 95% accuracy. What is also cool is that they found a way to flag entries that were a bit tricky or in the middle. A type of model called a linear SVM found about 18% of entries were ambiguous, meaning they weren't clearly human or AI. These are the ones that would be perfect for a human to take another look at. This study really highlights that being human-like in writing might not mean being perfectly polished or super coherent. In fact, for personal writing like journaling, the little quirks, the shifts in topic, and the focus on the immediate experience might be the very things that signal authenticity. Now, what does this all mean for us? For starters, researchers can use these findings to build better tools for checking their data. Instead of just relying on a black box detector that gives a score, they can use these understandable language clues. This makes the process more transparent and helps them be sure about the data they're using. It also means that the messiness of human writing, the things that might seem like errors, could actually be valuable signals of genuine thought and feeling. Of course, like all studies, this one has its limitations. The researchers mentioned that the people who wrote the journal entries and the students who judged them had certain backgrounds. For example, participants who used AI were more likely to be male and native English speakers. This means the clues they found might be influenced by these demographics. Also, they didn't have ground truth, meaning they didn't have entries they knew for sure were AI generated under controlled conditions. They relied on human judgment and an existing detector, which themselves aren't perfect. Future research could look at how these findings apply to different groups of people, different languages, and how they hold up as AI gets even better at mimicking human writing. It's a constant race, and researchers need to keep updating their methods. But the main takeaway is powerful. We're learning that the essence of human introspection in writing isn't about perfection, but about immediacy, personal voice, and the natural flow of thought. Even if it is a bit messy, this research gives us a clearer picture of how to identify that genuine human touch in a world increasingly filled with AI. It is a really important step in making sure the research we rely on is truly reflecting human experiences. What do you think about these findings? Do you find AI writing to be different from human writing? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the psychology of language and AI, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science explained simply, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of the human mind. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.